Hey, everybody. Welcome to an episode of the Hey Everybody podcast. Could be 63. It could be 64. I will know when it's over, and then I will properly label it so that you can properly find it if you're looking for it. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting the people tell me this isn't really a podcast. I'm going to keep calling it a podcast because that's what it feels right to call. And that's, how do we name anything? I don't know. It just feels like it should be called a podcast. What am I supposed to call it? Someone told me it's a vlog. And I just went, I'm not saying vlog. So welcome to the podcast. And thank you for supporting it in the many ways that you do. Be that financially, via PayPal, Christopher at ChristopherGold.com, or via Venmo at ChristopherGoldMusic, or by telling a friend, or by leaving a nice comment, or by sharing it, or, whatever. I don't know. Someone that's been supporting the podcast since pretty much the beginning supported the podcast again this week, and I'm excited to show you how. I left this on my shelf here because I'm going to revisit it often. So my friend Mary, hi Mary, she has this wonderful tendency to, she doesn't use PayPal and Venmo and that kind of thing. She sends me letters, and I love it. And she throws a little cash in there to keep the podcast going, and it's lovely. And this particular letter, in addition to some personal notes from her, included a poem called She Let Go by someone named Sapphire Rose. And I gotta tell you, I love this poem. And I'm not gonna read it to you because I don't know about the legalities of doing that on YouTube. But this person has a website and everything, and you should check it out. Apparently there's a collection coming out soon that I will be looking forward to. But man, oh man, this poem, She Let Go by Sapphire Rose, really knocked me out. I liked it a lot. So I appreciate that, Mary. Thank you very much. Back up on the shelf. Other notable doings this week. I had a show on the books that was a ticketed affair that I had. It's tricky. We've talked about the business before and how you're up and you're down and you're up and This summer, we played our biggest show ever, and I've sold thousands of CDs to people and hundreds of T-shirts and books, and people watched the podcast and everything. And I had this show on the books with two other acts, and we got word, I think 2 days before the show, that the venue wanted to cancel because it was a ticketed event, and we had sold 0 tickets. And I'm not supposed to tell you that because, you're supposed to figure out a way to make your losses look like wins and but I'm concerned with what that does to the aggregate self-esteem of the world in which I live. People lose sometimes. People, for a variety of reasons, be it COVID, be it the location of the venue, be it whatever. You have a show on the books and nobody buys a ticket and they want to cancel it. What happens instead is that they move it to a different venue and it ends up being wonderful. And I really enjoyed hanging out with the other people I was playing with, and there's a nice crowd there, and some friends came out, and it was great. But I really wrestled. I was talking to Tori when it looked like the show was just going to get canceled. I wrestled with how I would announce it. If you spend time, because my theory was always that people are planning on coming, they're just not going to buy their tickets in advance, and the venue was not comfortable with that. But if you spend time promoting a thing, I feel like I have kind of a responsibility to tell you, hey, that thing, that's off. And I feel like, especially nowadays, first there's just my personal want to be honest with people. It just feels good, I think, to just tell people, hey, this is how it is. But I also think that we have a social responsibility in times of heightened concern like we're going through now with COVID, where if you being vague is going to let people fill in that blank with something much worse, Like, I don't want people to think I have COVID, or that someone at the venue had COVID, and that, leads to this, fear that everyone's carrying around, and lends to that. I don't want to do that. So I had decided, I told Tori, like, I'm just going to tell people, like, sold no tickets. 2 months ago, I was on stage in front of 2,500 people and sold no tickets, 0 tickets, none tickets. But I ended up not having to do that because, where there's a will, there's a way, and where there's a way, there's a brewery. And we ended up playing at this rad brewery in Manitowoc, Wisconsin, and I had a great time. I really did. I hope to be back very soon. I liked it there a lot. I liked the people a lot. And, coincidentally, this show happened to be on my birthday. Another thing that I think is probably true societally, but somewhat amplified by the business, is that we're supposed to be 25 forever, Ugh, that sounds terrible. And I can tell you, not just personally, but like, as the people around me that I love get older, it's so good. My wife and I have been married for 15 years. And that's a long time to know a person. And I can say I've known her in 3 different decades, because the way those 15 years laid themselves out. I know 15 is not 3 decades. And my favorite age is always the age she is when you ask the question. I watching her develop and become a mother, and just, it's been great. And my friends, as they get older, I love it. And I have younger brothers, and as they get older, I love it. It's great. And I've really, really loved getting older myself. But, we're told that, like, who do you know that's ever signed a record deal after, their 30th birthday? And it's like, well, I don't know. Is that what I'm trying to do? Like, I don't know. But I turned 38 a couple days ago, and it was good. I liked being 38. I liked being 37. I did not particularly enjoy being 25, if I'm being honest. I just think there are certain things that our brains can do that they can't do early on. You just have to give them time to develop and experience and that kind of thing. And I think it's great. I'm excited about being 39. I think it'll be fun. I think it helps that in the last couple years, I've really been focused on, like, how to make my head better. And in the last maybe year and a half, I've even been focused on, like, some healthier habits and that kind of thing. I'm boozing less. I'm exercising. Probably can't tell because you're just seeing my head here. But I weigh 30 pounds less on my 38th birthday than I did on my 37th birthday. And I ate a bunch of candy yesterday. And my wife made cupcakes because it's my birthday. The point is, I'm getting older. Can't stop it. Trying to enjoy it. It's working out. I hope it's working out for you too, because you're getting older too. But birthdays can be tricky, as can certain calendar holidays. My family is different than other families in the way that it's structured and in the way people relate to each other. My dad lives in another country. I have a wonderful stepmom. My brothers, I guess technically, are like half brothers, but if you call them that, I'll smack you in the mouth because I love them so. And, my sister lives in another state and has for, most of my life, except for the part of my life where I was young and we were very, very close. And then all of a sudden she was in this other state and stayed there. So it's strange. In some wonderful ways. My dad and I are very close. I love my stepmom very much. I love all my siblings. Everything's, it's cool. And a lot of it is stuff that, like, you just kind of get used to. But then, some nasty date will come along and just kind of knock you upside the head. And maybe with it comes like a lot of marketing or holiday movies or whatever that just sort of serve to remind that, like, you could want this more regular thing and it wouldn't matter because you can't have it. And sometimes those dates, they get me a little, they make me feel a certain way, or like I lack something, or that I miss something, or, But what was interesting about that experience this year on my birthday was all this sort of training I've been doing on mindfulness really kind of paid off. And it pays off every day in 1,000 tiny ways. But I believe that a huge part of my well-being and mental state and that kind of thing has to do with starting first with how I want to feel. How would I like to feel? If I was in charge, how would I choose to feel? Followed immediately by, like, am I in charge? Can I be in charge? What would it take to be in charge? And then feel that way. My habitat here that you see me in right now is actually 2 rooms. And it's a little bit like being inside my brain sometimes, in that, I have books that I like, and I don't know if you can see, but in that corner is just a ton of notebooks that I have filled up, and there's a Justin Timberlake bobblehead, and a big Sasquatch, and a gold-plated Homer Simpson with a button on the back that says "Yeehaw" when you push it, and my bluegrass hat, and my John K. Sampson pin that he gave me after I played with him, and there's Tom Petty and John Prine and Tony Rice and Townes Van Zandt and stuff my wife made, and there's a big picture of Willie Nelson over here, and another Tom Petty thing, and a Clint Eastwood thing, and there's some records in here, and CDs and recording gear. And in this other room, directly adjacent, it is full, and I do mean full, of guitars. Mostly guitars, and a couple basses and mandolins and banjos and amplifiers and that kind of thing. There's a drum kit in the basement. You can make a record in this house if you wanted to. I've done it before. Not this particular house, but I got plans. The point is, this adjacent room has all this wonderful natural light. And it's got windows on 3 of the 4 walls, and 3 of the 4 walls are lined with guitars. And when I have a show or a recording session, or I want to write something, I have to go in that room, and I kind of stand in the middle of it. And first I feel this wonderful feeling of just, I love this room. I love guitars so much. They are my favorite earthly thing. I don't count Tori and Ollie. I think they're more than earthly. And they're not things. My favorite earthly thing is guitars. Old ones, new ones, crappy ones, nice ones. I love them. And the way they make me feel about being in a world I don't always feel so comfortable in. I love it. I love the hope and promise of a new guitar. I love the excitement of someone else getting a guitar. I love guitars. And they make me feel peaceful in a way that no other thing has ever really accomplished. So when I have a thing I need a guitar for, I go in this room, I stand there for a second, I feel that feeling. And then I think to myself, which one? Based on, solo show or band show, obviously. Sometimes based on the set list. Sometimes based on, if I'm going in the studio, I should probably bring a couple that cover a few different bases that I like to hit. Sometimes it's about, this one's a little fragile, and in the circumstance I'm going into, I might not want to bring that one. Sometimes it's about, this one needs a rest, needs a little bit of love and time to recuperate while I fix this thing or whatever. And then I pick the guitar for the moment. That's why if you come see me play, you'll very often see things sort of switched in and out and that kind of thing. And it's a bit of a sloppy metaphor, but it's how I'm trying to look at my brain. Except in my brain, there are guitars that I never want to play. They're terrible, horrible guitars that only play awful, atonal, terrible music. So on my birthday, and in the days that follow, I try to imagine myself looking at a rack of guitars. I call it a boat. That's what they call it, a boat. If you come see us play live and on the side of the stage, there's some guitars in a big stand. That's the boat. I'm looking at a boat, and it's got some wonderful guitars in it. You know, it's got Tori in there. It's got Ollie in there. It's got my relationship with my other family members. It's really, really good. It's got a career that is slow but sure. It's working, you know, thus far. It's got this podcast and talking to you guys and hearing from you guys and that kind of thing. But it also has some real beat up, mangled guitars that I used to have a lot of hope for, that other people really, really did a number on. And it even has a couple like empty spaces that will never ever be filled. And sometimes it's right to sit with those empty spaces or those broken guitars and like mourn them and feel that. But sometimes you go, I'm gonna pick me up a couple of these radical, nice guitars. I'm gonna play some of these good thoughts rather than focus on these empty spaces or these beat up thoughts. And I'm gonna try to have a good show, you know? And you know, for me that meant, you know, a lot of times it means throwing myself into other people's joy. Feeling a little sad, go find Oliver. Hey man, and I will say this to him sometimes, what could we do today that would just make you think that life is rad? And he'll go, we should go to the comic book store. And I go, get in the car. Sometimes he'll just say, you know, I saw a commercial for this candy bar and I thought it looked pretty good. And I go, get in the car and we will drive around until we find this weird piece of candy. It doesn't taste very good. So Saturday I woke up, it had some bad dreams and that kind of thing. I was tired, I was cranky. It was the day after my birthday, and you know, certain people didn't reach out and certain people I know are not going to reach out. So I took my wife to the corn maze because my wife, she's got a good head on her shoulders, so she knows that fall is the best season. Fall's the best season. And she loves all the fall stuff. She loves the pumpkin patch and the corn maze and that kind of thing. So we went to the corn maze, and it was a blast. I was a little cranky because I didn't have food and I hadn't eaten yet. But we had fun. I saw some horses. I love horses. I saw a goat that I really got along well with. And it was good. It was fun. And I got to feel the payoff of like taking some of my power and going, no. This is how I've decided to feel. I'm going to feel happily married and joyfully, what's the present tense verb for having a kid? Fathered, sunded, dadded, I don't know. I got a rad wife and a wonderful kid and people that like me and like my songs and at the end of the day, and sometimes it's enough, I got these guitars and they make me happy and I go, you know, play them and just sometimes I just stand in there for like 10 minutes and just go, because it's also a solid reminder that like my life did not turn out the way that I thought it would. It turned out much better. And there's evidence of that in every room of this house. You just have to go find Tori and Ollie. So, if I could send you away with some encouragement, it would be, it will not work all the time. I get that. But I would encourage you to from the jump, ask yourself how I want to feel. You know, how do I wish I felt right now? And then see if it's possible. And if it's not possible, maybe just the effort will keep the bad stuff mitigated somewhat. I don't know. It does not always work, and I'm never going to be the guy that tells you like you just got to try this thing, my foolproof 10-step plan for 3 easy payments of $9.99, and you'll never be sad again. But maybe give that a shot and maybe it'll help. It's helped me quite a bit. And it led to a wonderful birthday weekend. And thank you all for the love. If you reached out, I appreciate it. Let's get you some recommendations. Let's get you out of here. First, here's a book. I'm right in the middle of it. It's called The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. The way books work for me is I hear about a book, I go get the book. I don't always immediately read the book. So I've owned this book for probably a number of years, like 3 or 4 years. Enough people recommended this book to me from enough walks of life that I just got real intrigued. And I went out and I grabbed it and it sat on my shelf. And last week I started reading it. And I'm at about the midway point. I'm a little beyond that. I'll probably have it finished in a couple days here. But it's wonderful, and I'm getting a lot out of it. I'm not getting everything out of it. Again, I've said this before. I don't think I've ever read a book where I was like, yes, everything in that book. But I read enough that like I really liked this, and this from that book, and this, and this from that book, and so on and so forth. That I've compiled a nice little collection in my mind of stuff I like. And I'm no longer out looking for that one book that's going to teach me how to live. I don't think that exists. But these 4 agreements are good and at least worth thinking about. It's be impeccable with your word. Don't make assumptions. Don't take anything personally. Always do your best. Probably all 4 of those things are impossible to achieve, but I'm having a heck of a time reading about them. And I find, if nothing else, having stuff like this at least slows me down on the path to freaking out, because there have been times where I've stopped and said like, I'm really mad at this guy, and then I'll stop and think about this book and I'll go, are you taking things personally? And then I'll go, yeah, because that guy's a dick. And it doesn't really change too much, but it slows me down just enough. And then I'm sort of like playing with my own mind a little bit, saying like, you know what you're doing here. And then I go, yeah, I know what I'm doing, but I'm going to do it anyways. Well, okay, it's up to you, but you really shouldn't. I don't know. It's quite a journey. Now for the music. First up, oh my goodness gracious. Look at this. Look at this. This record is called Pontiac, and it is by the Lyle Lovett. Just look at it. It's got that hair. Love me some Lyle Lovett. Lyle Lovett has a Tiny Desk session on YouTube, which is one of my favorite things in the world. I've watched it no less than, I don't want to exaggerate, I've watched it 20 times. I might watch it again today. I love it, and I hope you'll check it out. This was a gift from my wife on the day of my birth, and it's great. Especially because a few weeks ago I was on the road, and I was at a place that had this record, and I didn't get it because it was a little pricey, and I regretted not getting it. And she did that wonderful thing where when I told her that, she just went, oh, there's not much to do in response to that except wait a month and then give it to me on my birthday, because she's wonderful. The other wonderful thing about this record is not just that it has his legendary song, If I Had a Boat, on it. It's got a song on it called L.A. County. And Lyle Lovett is one of those people that has this wonderful ability to just get me to listen. A lot of times, I think, for musicians, listening to music is not a very passive process. Sort of can't help but try to, like, in your mind, go like, oh, I know this riff. He's going from the G to the E minor, and I get that. Or, oh, that melody is really interesting. Or that harmony. Or I love the way the drums are kind of sitting. You kind of just always processing it as someone who knows how to process it the same way the person who made it knows how to process it. But the gift to me of people like Lyle Lovett is that I don't do that with Lyle Lovett. I just sit and I listen. I think there's like a quality about his voice or something. And there's a song on this record called L.A. County. And I love it. It's one of my favorite Lyle Lovett songs. And I dug up a video of it the other day, and I was watching it, and I realized it's just 2 chords over and over again. It's like the simplest thing, and there's not really a chorus, and there's no great like vocal gymnastics or guitar virtuosity. it's just nice. And I've been a little slow in my writing, I think, because I've been trying to avoid that. I've been feeling like, well, I can't use that progression again. I can't use that riff again. I've used it before, and I don't want people to think like, oh, all his songs are just this to that to that. And then I thought, well, I want to write stuff that feels good to write, you know? And then maybe some people will hear it and it'll feel good to hear. And maybe a lot of people will still go, 3 chords, get out of here. But maybe if I'm happy, enough people will like it and be happy that it won't matter too much. So check out I Love It, or whatever music sort of sucks you in so much that you stop analyzing it or thinking about it. All right, up next, and finally, this record is called Big Bend by Explosions in the Sky. Explosions in the Sky are an instrumental band from Texas. And they often have a tendency to get quite big and loud and wonderful. Me, Tori, and Ollie went and saw them live right before the pandemic, and it was phenomenal. And this record is notable because it is the original soundtrack to a public television documentary about Texas, the wild frontier of Texas, they say. And it's not big, and it's not loud. It's a little more earthy, like pianos and acoustic guitars, still instrumental, and it's great. Put it on and just give it a listen, and you'll feel nice. And sometimes the world is just too chatty. So a little instrumental music might be the right antidote to that. So there you go. That's the first one of year 38. In the bag, in the can, done. I appreciate you guys being here. I appreciate you guys, if nothing else, just giving me a place to sort of like process and nail down, like, what am I thinking? What do I think about that? Did that guitar metaphor make any sense? I don't know. The point is, maybe we're not as powerless as we've been told, even by ourselves. And maybe if we want to be happy, step one is honestly making that decision. Because there's a time, I think we can all admit, or some of us can admit, I will admit, there was a time in those wicked 20s that I sort of thought that like depression or whatever made me interesting, or it was where my art came from, or whatever. And I was wrong, you know? And I'm very happy to be on the other side of at least that thought. What will make all of us interesting is being at peace enough to fully be ourselves. Because that's all you can be in this world that will offer the world anything you would want to take, is be yourself, you know? And you can't be yourself if you make yourself sad, or you make yourself angry, or you make yourself anxious. And I don't mean you're doing those things to yourself. I mean your truest version of yourself is anxious and sad. So I hope we can all find some peace, so we can all be ourselves, so we can all start writing songs with no choruses and just 2 chords that take people somewhere good. Stop worrying about trying to impress. All right. I love you guys. I gotta go. I'll talk to you soon. Next week even. Haha. Be good. Bye.